Good evening, everybody. I'm Larry Butler, Chief Operating Officer for Reston Association. I'm here to do an elections information session for you tonight. So I appreciate everybody here in the audience. I think I know everybody. So what we're going to do tonight, we'll go ahead and go around the room and do introductions. I think that's appropriate. We're going to talk about board member duties and responsibilities. Briefly touch on the election materials and schedule, where to find information if you don't remember it from the meeting tonight, and then we'll do a little Q&A at the end, and we should be wrapped up fairly quickly, I would think. So I'm going to start over here.
So I'm Christina Easterly. I am the board and committee liaison, and if you are considering running for a position, I'll probably be your main point of contact.
Good to have a chairman of the elections committee. Reverend Flashman. Papa Treen.
Sure.
Shalice Programs Registrar.
Thank you all for being here. Crowded house. We hope that by putting this on YouTube, we'll get a little more traction on the interest for the elections. So with that, let me get started. So board director seats. We have a 9-member board. We have 4 district seats: North Point, Lake Antall Oaks, Hunters Woods, Dogwood, South Lakes. And the 8 directors are elected by category A and C members. Those are owners and tenants. And then we have a category B board director, and that person is voted upon by the apartment owners. And that is literally the owners of the apartment complexes here in Reston. Here's my electric guitar. So for those directors, as I said, represent a district, and for sometimes we have people resign and so forth. And that is the case going into the 2020 election. So these are the open seats for this election: the at-large 3-year term, filling out a 1-year term for an at-large, and then, of course, the Class B apartment owners director position and Hunters Woods Dogwood. And the important thing to note there is that for the Hunters Woods Dogwood district, that those candidates must live in that district. So what are the overall board duties and responsibilities? The RA board sets policy for an organization that has 106 full-time staff, which is also supported by more than 300 seasonal staff, camps, aquatics, maintenance, and so forth. And unlike many not-for-profit boards, the Reston Association board is not required. We're okay with it, but the RA board is not required to go out and raise money, so it's not specifically a fundraising board. The annual assessment is the main source of revenue at about 80%. The rest is non-assessment revenue through program fees and rentals and things of that nature. And we are also supported by a 501c3. It's kind of a sister organization. That's the Friends of Reston for Community Projects. So the board members are responsible to the membership for seeing that the purposes and policies as put forth in our governing documents are followed and that the strategic objectives of RA are accomplished. And I should also note, and we'll make reference to this a little later in the presentation, that the board recently adopted a new strategic plan. And then continuing on with those responsibilities, determine the long-range mission. Again, I said that the board just recently adopted the next 3-year strategic plan, established policies and procedures, hires and evaluates the CEO, monitors finances, approved budgets, sets the assessment, which was set for 2020 at $708, and then approves the association's programs and capital spending. So the association is roughly a $16 million operating budget and about $3 million capital in 2020. Here's where we really get important. Individually, this is what the directors are really required to do. This is part of their fiduciary responsibility, which is attend all the board meetings. There are special events, often a board retreat for doing planning and so forth. Prepare thoroughly for board meetings. Read the materials. Ask questions before the board meeting. if you have them, so that you may get some simple questions answered that don't take up time at some of the board meetings. Serve as committee members or liaisons and or chairs of committees. And we're going to go through the committee structure here in a little bit to give you a little more idea of what that entails. Offer counsel, suggestions, opinions, often assume leadership roles, and then keep the board and CEO informed of community concerns. The board members for Reston Association really are, I mean, it's not a fundraising board, but it can be a sounding board. And so that is a role that is not to be taken lightly. So the RA board appoints its own officers. That's done typically at the initial meeting of the board, which is the the Wednesday after the annual meeting, which is the second Tuesday in April. And they elect their own president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. As noted here, the secretary and treasurer, while selected by the board, are not required to actually be directors. And in fact, we had, for about 15 years, our treasurer was a non-board member. And then the board hires the CEO, who is appointed or hired essentially to run the association. Lots of duties and responsibilities, you see. It's not to be taken lightly. So the committee structure, we heard just a little bit ago, we had heard a comment about our committees. I won't repeat that. But in carrying out its duties, the board looks to committees at many levels to help run the association. And these committees are, the members are volunteers, other volunteers in the community, and typically there's a board member that is a liaison to each one of these committees. So the elections committee, which is represented here tonight by its chair, and the board committees, and these are what we call board established committees, board operations, happens to be meeting down the hall. No, excuse me, board governance is meeting down the hall. Fiscal and legal committee, board advisory committees, environmental advisory committee, parks and rec, and multimodal transportation, which is also meeting down the hall tonight. A lot of meetings here at Reston Association. The RA board relies on the covenants committee and the design review board for design, use, and maintenance issues. And something that a lot of people perhaps don't understand here in Reston is that the design review board is an independent body from the Reston Association Board of Directors. The RA board appoints the members of the DRB, but their decisions are independent of the Reston Association Board. And that's why the DRB only has the power to interpret and administer and render decisions involving design covenants and the like. However, the RA board ultimately has the responsibility to enforce those decisions, and it is decisions of the board of directors to take things, for instance, to the legal committee and to, take those legal routes if need be. This is a question that comes up quite often: time commitment. This varies depending on the individual. So we like to consider this a minimum commitment. 20 hours per month in meetings. That's the board meeting. A board member will typically be on either the board operations committee or the board governance committee. Board members serve on the legal committee or liaisons to the advisory committees or other board committees, fiscal, covenants, and the three advisory committees referenced earlier. And so that is kind of the standard commitment. The regular monthly meetings are typically held on the fourth Thursday of the month. There are some months where that's changed because of the potential for snow, the annual meeting month in April, and then in November and December they're advanced because of the holidays. So that is what we consider a minimum commitment. And again, we've had many board members who spend, about that much time, and we've had quite a few, probably more, that spend way more than that, depending on how much they want to get involved in the affairs of the community. So some important dates for the election schedule. The deadline for filing candidacy is 5 p.m. on Friday, January 24th. 5 p.m. January 24th. Shortly after that, the Elections Committee will meet to review and validate the candidate petitions. We'll go over that here in a couple minutes. and statements. And then right out of the chute, you get your picture taken for ballots and all the other fun stuff that goes along with it. And then also the board potential candidates will also have the opportunity to do a short video. And then the elections committee will meet again on February 6th, and they'll meet with the candidates and go over the rules and all that other kind of the subtle nuances of the ballot and the rest of the process. So validating candidacy forms, this is a really important piece here. And this is what the elections committee ultimately will do. We've got another member coming in. Candidates file a petition, either the at-large or district seat, but not both. And the secretary or chair of the elections committee by the date set. And then the petition shall be signed by members of not less than 25 different households who are eligible to vote for such seat. So again, that's a really key part. And so you want to make sure if you can get 40 signatures, that's probably not a bad idea, because it may be that a few of those aren't actually valid people to sign that petition for candidacy, yes. And then the candidates will also file a signed statement of candidacy with important information there. And then eligibility, this is another important piece here. I'll read this because I think this is key. No person shall be eligible for election or to serve as a member of the board of directors unless such person is a member residing in a residential property within the Reston master plan and subject to Reston association. That's not written there. It has no unpaid fee, regular or special assessment, attorney's fees or costs, and/or outstanding violation of the association's documents, which would mean a covenants violation, design review violation, and the like. So that's an important piece. Now, where to find information? So I'm going to give you there's some screenshots and so forth here. And this presentation will also go up on our website so that it can be referred back to. So most of this information on our website is, if you go about Reston Association down to the drop down there to the governance section. And this is the general board and election info. And then there's a governance overview, talks about, kind of description of the board of directors. And important thing here as well is you can also find links to board minutes, agendas, and the meeting recordings. And all of our board meetings are live streamed on our YouTube channel. So people can go back and visit them, try to remember what they thought they said and all that important stuff. Also, we've got the new strategic plan up there for review, and I encourage all candidates to review that, because that is going to be part of what the board's mission is over the next 3 years. And then the budget, the board recently adopted the 2020 operating capital budget. You can find details of that, and you can see over on the right panel there some of those details. And then there's monthly financial statements as well, and these are reviewed by the fiscal committee as well as the board of directors. And then you can see also the 990 tax returns, which we are required to file, of course, as a not-for-profit organization under IRS 501c4 regulations. And then also some other information, again, about the board election. And here's some real specific, some of the stuff that I've already talked about tonight. And for questions and answers, you can certainly call me, but I encourage you to call Christina. And if she has any questions, she can call me or talk to, our general counsel or our CEO. And, we look forward to, having a robust election, getting a few more people out than are currently present in this room. And so for those of you who are watching this on our YouTube channel, again, if you have any questions, please contact Christina, and we will get you the answers to those questions. I think that's the last slide, if I'm not mistaken.
I have one comment and one question.
Sure.
With regard to the DRB, changes in the guidelines are developed by the DRB, but they're submitted for approval to the board.
Correct.
And once approved by the board, then followed by the DRB.
That's correct.
Second, can a filing of the candidacy application along with the signatures be done by email, or does it have to be physically deposited in the mailbox or at the members' service center?
It can be done by email.
By email.
And if you are bringing it in person, it's important to ask for me at Member Services so that I definitely receive it.
So for those of you, if on the recording you didn't hear that, when you submit your candidacy statement and petition by the 24th at 5 o'clock, if you come in at 4:45 that Friday and you come into Member Services, please ask for Christina. I suspect she will be here till 5 that particular day. And ask for her specifically so we can make sure that it's time, date, and, stamped in advance of that 5 o'clock hour.
We're being paid here, so.
Would you give a date stamped copy back? A date and time stamped copy?
We don't date and time stamp it to give it back unless you request a copy. Christina can make a copy for you. And if you email, if you scan and email it over, Christina will respond, letting you know that she received it.
That's also.
It is a very firm deadline. Yes, thank you.
And that's for assessments too.
So if you bring it in, you can also do everything at once. You can pay your assessment with Christina and submit the application at the same time.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
Presumably by that comment, although technically the payment is not overdue, if you're going to be a candidate, you must have made the payment
Yes.
in order to be qualified.
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The difference between the board operating committee and the board governance committee.
Yes.
Board fairly subtle.
It's a little bit subtle. The Board Operations Committee is really tasked with vetting new issues, setting the agenda for the board meeting. They review any changes to resolutions in advance, and determining is it ready for prime time to go to the full board. They review requests for special use of common areas, a lake use request or something like that. So those are generally the main tasks. The board. Well, that's true, and interview candidates for committees, advisory committees, volunteer appointments, and so forth, and make those recommendations to the full board. The Board Governance Committee looks at policy, strategic plan. You attend more of those than I do. They review the CEO's performance, which they're actually doing tonight. Yeah, it's primarily that. So it's really issues of governance. So they also look at resolutions. I mean, some of the other things on their agenda tonight, conflict of interest, and looking at a new resolution with respect to program fees and things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
But it is a subtle distinction. I grant you that. Going once?
So,
Going twice? If there's no further questions, thank you very much for coming out. Again, if you have any questions, please get in contact with Christina, and we'll be happy to answer those. All right,
Here.
thank you.